Good morning. Today we are visited by our shop owner, Jared. How are you, Jared?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Now, you and all the artists here do have something in common. Each of you did complete an apprenticeship to get where you're at, but we know not every apprenticeship is the same. And I'm wondering if we can chat a little bit about your experience as an apprentice. Let's start from the beginning. How did you get your foot in the door?
Well, unfortunately, I was young and dumb, right? I was a teenager, and obviously didn't know a lot about the industry. The industry was way different back then too. It wasn't mainstream.
What year was it?
So, well, I was. It would have been 96.
96. Okay. So yeah, it was a little bit different back there too.
It was a lot different. It was a lot harder to get into. There were a lot less studios. And they were just a lot more selective and picky. But I had known somebody, and this was a bad approach. Instead of doing my research and finding really good artist and somebody would make a good mentor, because that's really how the apprentice should look at it. Is sorry, I'm doing a little education here too, but is they should look at it as I'm selecting my mentor and then applying with them, and hopefully they accept me, right? Instead, I was kind of like, I had known this dude, and his brother was a tattoo artist, and so I just hit him up because somebody I just knew. I had done a few tattoos, like prison style, right, which is another really bad thing. But anyway, so by then I'd had some professional equipment and stuff, and then I'm like, well, I did realize quickly and I need to do an apprenticeship, right?
Okay.
So I did correct myself, even though I was a dumb teenager, and figured I want to do this the right way. I want to get an apprenticeship. But I had done, a couple dozen tattoos at this point. And so I go in and, he's like, okay, it's going to be, this many $1,000. It was thousands. And so then I figured out a way to, get the money. I figured out how to get all the money and went and said, okay, I'm good. And, some of that went to some new equipment. And he's like, okay, I want you to do a tattoo on somebody tomorrow. Right.
Okay, right away.
So I brought something. I got my sister's friend came in. He just kind of wanted to see where I was with things, which is, again, another horrible approach because we were putting the cart before the horse, right? We weren't even starting with cross-contamination and all of that. But, and I'm not dumb, so I had a really good understanding of that already. But anyway, that's where it should start. So I did my first tattoo, and he's like, "You're doing walk-in starting tomorrow."
Oh, how exciting!
Yeah. So I had no apprenticeship. Well, I did because then that continued over that time. But I was tattooing right out of the gate.
Did you ever tattoo anything that wasn't human?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah, because it's a long story, but it was gang members. It was gang members who, showed me that I was hanging out with when I was several years younger and in high school, and they were showing me how to make the prison, the homemade machines. And so, I mean, my very first tattoo I did on somebody was a 2 and a 5 on the palms of their hands, right, for 25th Street, LA,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
And so that was literally my first tattoo that I did. In this dude's fucking trailer on this gang member who fucking slit this guy's throat a week later. But
Hope his tattoo was healed before he ended up going somewhere else.
yeah, so it was sketchy people and a sketchy way to start doing it, but
Did they see talent or potential in you, and that's why he just kind of fast tracked the?
yeah, he was impressed by the first tattoo that I did, and that's why he was like, "Yeah, you're doing walk-ins." In fact, I remember one of the tattoos I did. He was asking me how I got my line so straight.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which was odd because
Teaching him a couple things.
well, I didn't. I'm like, I don't know. I just do it. Right? Like,
Right.
but so that went on. I mean, the most that he showed me, honestly, is how to build needles. That's
Oh, okay.
that's the only thing that I can say that I got out of the apprenticeship, because he didn't teach me shit.
So you don't think it was like art centered or composition centered?
No, he
just get you to tattooing.
he didn't even know anything about that. So I mean, his tattooing hasn't changed from back then to now, even still, right? So, and I don't mind talking, because I have no respect for the guy, and that's a whole other story. But he's just a douchebag of a person. But anyway, I had to learn on my own. So I was getting on forums, just online, and
on the World Wide Web.
Yep, and I had membership of these forums. I was just collecting information. I would talk to people who, a lot of those were pretty big name back then, or weren't and are now, right? And so I was talking to a lot of people back then that are big in the industry, or big pigment makers. And anyway, so a lot of people were happy to share information, and then I would take it back, and he'd be like, well, can you give me access to it? He basically wanted me to collect the data and hand it over to him. I'm like, no. I'm not going to do all the work. And
roles reversed, right?
Yeah, I'm like, you can go spend the time doing it. But anyway, so I was learning from other people and not him. And then that went into seminars and DVD instructional, you know what I mean, instructional DVDs. And that's how I was learning while I was supposed to be apprenticing.
So you had a very strong hunger for knowledge and for furthering this, whether your mentor was going to lead the way or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then it took me way too long to get to the point where I was, doing the work that I was, somewhat happy with, because I'm still not all the way content with my work now. I don't think I ever will be, but it took, 3 times as long, right? So if it took you 4 or 5 years, it took me over 8 years. But anyway, it can go a lot better and a lot faster, and ideally you would finish your apprenticeship and you'd just be out the gate doing awesome work and
fully prepared.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. And now I know you have taken apprentices in the past. Did you take any of your experience, turn around and say, this is not how I'm going to do things, this is the kind of knowledge that I want to share?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the only thing I haven't taught is, we start off with cross-contamination. I have a curriculum that I follow, right, as far as what they need to do along the way, and also, making sure that our education is on point, and then obviously into tattooing after that. But the needle building, even though I did that for years, by the time I'd opened this studio, they'd started coming out with pre-made needles, right? So
even before the cartridges.
Yeah. So they'd just be on the needle bar. They had machines. Basically, they're soldering all these needles to the bars, and but even then, I still kept making needles because I didn't like how they were being made. But anyway, that's the only thing I can say that I took from my apprenticeship was needle building.
Yep. Very interesting. Well, it sounds like the beginning of any decent career in any field is a drive for knowledge and willingness to put in the hard work. Was there anything else you wanted to add on your apprenticeship experience?
I mean, there's a lot to tell, but I think this is already probably getting too long, huh? So, nope.
Well, no, it's pretty long. Well, that just gives us a couple more topics that we can kind of touch in the future. It's a really fascinating perspective, yours compared to the other artists, and our viewers will see the other artists' experiences as well. But I do really appreciate your time and your honesty on this topic, and I look forward to chatting with you more.
Thank you.
Thank you.